Hello and welcome to another episode of Mildly Informed with me, Richie Firth, and him, Chris Skinner. Chris, how are you?
I'm very well, Richie. Thank you for asking. If someone has not listened to this programme before, then may I refer people to last week's episode and the subsequent social clips where we have posted, where you and I both have genius ideas about reforming school holidays. And the internet has spoken back to us and universally agreed that whatever the opposite of genius is, that's what we are.
Oh. I honestly thought that we'd come up with a great idea. In fact, I thought that your counter idea to mine was even better. But it looks like everyone wants to stay with the boring 6-week summer holiday system.
It appears that we pay a lack of attention to detail, to logistics and the lives that most people have to live, and are both maybe a little bit thick. And I have to say, in defence of the internet and the people that have commented, I think sometimes you just got to go with the flow. And if the people say something, you've got to listen. So I think here we are. I'm going to put my hands up now and I'm going to say I'm not the brightest tool. And for a start, brightest tool, I think, is a mixed metaphor, which just goes to prove how bad I am. So, yes, not promising much quality today.
Good for you for holding your hands up. I still stick with my system, so that's absolutely fine. Yeah. But that is why this is called Mildly Informed. Mildly. We plan to inform you, but only mildly. And any of your comments are indeed welcome. They might not be listened to, and you can send them via our email, mildlyinformedpod@gmail.com, or obviously in any of the comments on our social media channels, at Producer Chris, at Richie Firth, or Mildly Informed Pod.
Rich, I would love you to tell me about what I'm going to guess has been a very exciting week for you.
It's been a really exciting week, Chris. I've been off work and recovering really from the beginning of the week, where I went out and saw Oasis at their first of their London dates at Wembley Stadium.
Okay. Have you seen Oasis before?
Yes, but a long, long time ago back in the day.
The same, which was why I was resistant to going this time round. Tell me, am I an idiot to have missed out?
Chris, you've not yet missed out, because you could get yourself a ticket at an astronomical and immoral price off a ticket exchange site, or you may still have got a ticket for one of the dates that are left to go as we speak and record. Are you an idiot for not getting one so far? Well, no, you're not, because it was really difficult to get the tickets. And I consider that I was fortunate to be able to have gone. Here's what I would like to say about Oasis. It's not very often in life that something gets waxed lyrical about. There's all sorts of hype, and it turns out that it never actually reaches the levels of hype that people are talked about. This Oasis tour is off the scale. It's off the scale. And I am not the kind of person that normally gets trapped in group praise. I can sometimes be labelled a contrary person, liking to find the opposite opinion of the masses. But honestly, I can't do it this time round. That Oasis gig that I went to at Wembley a week ago today was amazing.
Why? Was it the crowd? Was it because the musicianship was great? What about it was so good?
It's actually quite easy to answer. And a couple of the things that you said there, first of all, the musicianship was fantastic. The band sounded great. They sounded really, really tight. I'd actually go as far as saying that I reckon, sometimes you can listen to WhatsApp notes, or you can listen to maybe people listening to this podcast on a slightly sped up pace, maybe 1.2 if they're listening to a WhatsApp note or something like that. I wouldn't mind betting that the band were actually playing all of their songs, but maybe at like 1.1, 1.2, because they raced through everything.
That's amazing, because I live my entire life now at 1.2. I mean, weirdly enough, with the exception of music, voice notes, podcasts, everything for me is now sped up. So I guess Oasis have finally got with the times and are just... Did they play? Okay. Did they play Live Forever?
Yes.
Did they play Cigarettes and Alcohol?
Yes.
Did they play Supersonic?
Yes.
Did they play Whatever?
Yes.
Did they play, what else is good? Champagne Supernova?
Finish with it.
Half the World Away?
Yes.
Slide Away?
Yes.
You might have noticed I'm saying mostly songs from the first two albums here.
Very interesting you say that, because they only really played one song from the later albums, and that was Little by Little. Almost a nod to them, how they decided to almost slide away themselves. They were so tight, Chris. That was one of the great things about it. I think the second thing that was great about it was the relief that they were sounding so good, because when you've been looking forward to something and wanting something for so long, if you got to it and it was actually a little bit toot, then that would be really disappointing. But I think the third thing for me as a fan that was great about it was you see them walking on arm in arm. You see them as they variously take their turns to walk off stage and lead, whether it's Liam or Noel. You see little pats on the back and all that kind of stuff. And as they finished and they'd done the last number and they're walking off after Champagne Supernova, and you can see the arms genuinely around each other and they're having a laugh about something that's gone on during the gig. Don't know what it was. My point is they were happy. And as a fan, if we're euphoric in the crowd, you want to be watching something that is also euphoric and that they're happy with. Otherwise, it all feels a little bit fake. So it really felt like the band were back and happy, and that, I don't know, that community together. That's what made it special.
I get it. Like, you want them either totally in love with each other, or you want to see genuine tension, genuine like animosity between them. Anything in between where they're sort of trying and it's not quite working is not good enough. Couple of questions. Bucket hats. How many bucket hats in the crowd?
I'd say if you weren't wearing a bucket hat, you weren't there.
Right. Beer. How much beer was being drunk in the crowd?
Cigarettes and alcohol was the peak for beer exploding above in the crowd. I got soaked, and I was higher up in Wembley.
Wow. Okay. It genuinely sounds exciting. I'm genuinely sorry that I missed out.
Get yourself on an immoral ticket exchange site and experience the 5-star review of the Oasis Live in 25.
I'll get myself some tickets to Sao Paulo. Go see them there.
I think it's the end of the tour. Chris, what's been on your mind this week?
Hang on. Review, please, Richie.
5-star.
Okay. I thought you might give him a humble 3.5 or something after that. But
Chris, after that 5-star review, what's been on your mind this week?
Rich, I've done a lot of travelling this week. We spoke about it last week, how I'd been to Cornwall and back. I'd been via Dorset, via Devon. Last weekend, I had to go up to Cheshire and back. Today, I'm off to Shropshire. I'm doing a lot of miles on the road, which is unusual for me. And the consequence of that has been that I've been stopping at a lot of petrol stations, which is not something I happen to do that much. What is going on with petrol stations and their prices right now? This is not a moan about the high cost. This is a moan about the inconsistency of the pricing from one petrol garage to the other. It's like some mad lottery, but I think I've got a solution. So you're driving up an A road and you drive past a Texaco and it's 136.9 a litre, and you're like, okay, fine, I've missed it. I'll go to the next one instead. 20 miles later, it's 160.9. And I'm like, how has it gone from 136 to 160? That's a big difference. And then the next one up the road is 147. I'm like, I don't understand how the price keeps going up and down and up. I get like going up by a couple of pence. I come up with a theory why. The longer the slip road back onto the main road, the higher the price of the petrol. So short slip roads, low petrol prices, really, but chaos. Yeah. Long slip roads, nice smooth journey back onto the road. You're paying 160. That's the only way I can work out why they charge differently.
You've noticed something really interesting about petrol stations. I hate the fact that some of them have got those really short slip roads. It's almost like the start of a Formula One Grand Prix, just to get back onto the road after you've filled up.
And you have joked on our previous show about, I think my car does 0 to 60 in about 20 seconds. And it's really hard, particularly then when you've got like a roof box and a bike on the top of it. And you're absolutely trying to ping it on to keep up with everyone with a car freshly full of very cheap petrol. It's genuinely, Rich, you are going to realise this now. When you see a short slip road, you've just missed a cheap petrol garage.
Do you want to know, because we must remember the name of this podcast, do you want to know the actual reason between why various different petrol stations have different prices?
It's what I'm here for.
Oil refineries.
What?
Oil refineries.
How does that make a difference?
There's only so many in the UK. So first of all, it's going to make a difference whereabouts in the country you are for the fuel. So if you are pretty close to an oil refinery, then your tanker hasn't had to drive that far to transport the fuel to the petrol station. So that's one governing thing. That's why sometimes if you're out right in the countryside, you'll find that the fuel is more expensive because the tankers had to come a longer distance. So first of all, distance from the oil refinery. Secondly, whether they are a supermarket or whether they are an actual petrol station. You'll find that the supermarkets have got the really cheap fuel because it's kind of like a loss leader, because they've got all the other stuff that they're selling. So another reason to get them in is because of the cheap fuel and all that kind of stuff. So that's another thing to bear in mind.
I understand the logic you're saying, but the experience
and then
I've
finally
had,
rent.
Well, rent factor 3 is the only one that can make sense to me, because taking your two previous points on board, some of these places with the price discrepancies, Rich, were 15 miles apart. I'm sorry. I know it costs a lot to lug a big oil tanker around, but it doesn't cost that much. And the prices go up and down and up and down. It's purely rent, may be a minor factor. It's how much they bothered to build the slip road. That's it. It's the exit ramp, whatever you want to call it, back onto the main road. That's the main factor.
I think there's one other factor that we do need to talk about, and that is the unscrupulous nature of some of the proprietors of these petrol stations. If there's one thing that I've taught my older two children who both drive now, that is to never get yourself in the situation where you need to be filling up from a motorway service station, because the prices of those are abhorrent, and that is purely on a needs basis. If you're on a motorway and there's literally like 40 miles until the next petrol station or something or other, they charge through the nose because they know they've got you by the ghoulies. So that is the other part of things. You've got some people that are putting up the price of their petrol station because they're an unscrupulous Scrooge. I remember when I was growing up as a kid, just past my driving test, I remember my dad always saying, don't go to that bloke there with that petrol station. He charges through the roof. And I think that really was. It was just because that particular bloke was tight.
Yeah, Bobby Mims Services that you and I have format, and I think I got a parking fine at on our previous show, is a fine example of that.
There's only 2 services on the M25, famously.
Is that true?
Clackett Lane on the south. Actually, no, there's 3. Clackett Lane on the south, Cobham on the south, and then Bobby Mims on the north.
Well, I think Thurrock Services has it takes issue with that, and
I'd say Thurrock Services is just off the M25. Right, okay. I wouldn't class it as... Anyway, by the by.
We can revisit this debate. If you want to go to the top of this feed, to Travel Hacker, and go to Season 1, Episode 1, you'll hear Richie and I driving around the M25. Clackett Lane remains very fresh in my memory, and some kind of debate about Thurrock Services. God, what have we done with our lives?
Not much.
I give the inconsistent pricing at service stations 2 stars.
I can be with you on that. It doesn't make a great deal of sense. I don't think we've answered it. 2-star review.
Let's have an ad break.
Good one. I'm definitely going to buy whatever they just told us.
Oh, God, so am I. But I'm not going to do it until I've heard what else has happened to you this week.
Chris, I'm in mourning.
Oh.
I'm in mourning this week. Yeah, it's quite sad, actually. R.I.P. the football programme.
What do you mean?
I've been going to football matches since 1987 when I was 10, and there's not been a single football match that I have been to where I've not bought a programme.
Yeah.
I always bought a programme. Teenage me kept all of my football programmes until my dad sold the family home and decided to bin my entire collection of football programmes. Now, I was inconsolable until I actually realised that when I looked online, the price of your retro football programme is not quite what you might think it's going to be. I thought it was going to be an investment. They're probably worth about 2p a programme. But that's by the by. I still love getting a football programme, whether you're paying a tenner, 20 quid for a cup final programme, or whether these days, maybe a fiver for an actual programme at a Premier League game. But do you know what, Chris? They are starting to be on the way out. I was really disappointed to read this week, Championship Football Club in the UK, Watford, have announced that they are no longer going to produce match day programmes this season. I then looked further into it, and about 5 years ago, there was a change to the rules of the Football League, the EFL.
Yeah.
So this isn't the Premier League, and there was a change to the rules 5 years ago where they said that clubs are no longer obliged to have to produce a matchday football programme. Now, that was a rule change that was brought in 5 years ago. Clubs have kind of kept on going with it, but the slide has started. Watford have decided no longer, and they're only one division below the Premier League. They have decided they're no longer going to produce matchday programmes.
That's a disgrace. I love a matchday programme. I think Watford, if they've screwed up their own product, shame on them. And if I can offer some advice to anyone else making programmes, it's this. Matchday programmes are for the fans. Yeah, properly for the fans. Deep fandom is closely associated with being a nerd. I think that's fair enough, self-identifying here. I will buy the official programme at a match. I'll also buy a fanzine if I still see a fanzine selling a paper copy of that as well. And in recent years where I've been going to Leyton Orient, I've really lent into that too. The thing that modern football programmes get wrong, and I'd extend this to cricket programmes as well, is they fail to cater to that nerd base. They've got too many fluffy articles in them and not enough statistics. I want to see the full grid of every player, what minute they came on. I want to see bold. I want to see different colours. I want to see the list of top scorers, both at the team, in the league. I want to see every single stat you can throw at me in paper form. I don't like reading it on the internet as much. I want it there.
I completely agree. When you do that season review and you see who's played every minute and who's come on, don't mix up the different competitions and say, in different lines. Do it in the whole season through, all right? So week after week after week, so you can see who's getting rotated and all that kind of stuff. We have to be even-handed here. Let's explore the reasons as to why Watford have decided, and other clubs are going to go the same way, as to why they're no longer going to do their matchday programme. Chris, let's just speculate on a few figures here. Attendance of a football match at Watford FC.
15,000?
I think that's a fair assumption, okay? 15,000, that's fair. The lowest sales they had last season for their matchday programmes was at home to Swansea City. All right, Watford versus Swansea, even in the Premier League days, not the most attractive figure. You've gone with a figure of 15,000 for their matchday attendance. How many people do you think bought a matchday programme against Swansea City?
So assuming there was about 13,000 of that was home fans.
Yeah.
So I would assume maybe not 50%, but close to. So 5,000 to 6,000 they sold.
On that given day, they sold 455 programmes.
That's Watford fans for you.
Okay, let's look at the biggest selling game for Watford last season. That was at home to their rivals, Luton Town.
It's a
Watford
big
versus
clash.
Luton. It's a big Hertfordshire derby. So, once again, let's play the Guess the Sales game. Chris, how many do you think they sold at home to Luton Town?
Okay, well, before you gave me that awful number before then, I'd have said 8,000. But now, off the back of that number you said, surely there's some passion there, 4,000.
1,045. That was the biggest sale for Matchday programmes.
Well, I mean, look, I kind of have sort of mixed feelings here because obviously someone had a job to write that programme and I'm sure they put some passion into it.
Agreed.
I don't know where the club was allowing this programme to be sold. I don't know what the price that they put on it was. But that's just awful. And if that, I guess even at the big clubs, and this is why, so Premier League teams, you can imagine being safe because even if only 10% are buying it at Arsenal or Tottenham, they're still doing 6,000, I guess, which is a decent turnover. You'd think they'd do more. But then a team like, so when I go to Orient, there's only about 8,000 in the ground. Are you saying there's only like 300-400 being sold for some of those games?
When you go to Leyton Orient, do they have a big Jumbotron TV in the stadium?
No.
That could be what the thing is, because Watford have said that they are going to put their money into the digital matchday entertainment rather than football programmes. So I know at their stadium, they've got two big screens either end of the ground. I know they do all the Premier League grounds, certainly do at Arsenal. I know they do at Spurs, City, the like. You've got all that going on. So they're investing in the cretins that host the in-stadium stuff with all the whizzes and bangs rather than the match day statistics and that kind of stuff. Also, they say they're going to invest in their digital online stuff. So the stuff that you might be able to watch on Instagram or Twitter. I just find that a real shame. And like when you actually go to the game itself, you want a paper program in your hand to be able to say, oh, who's number 17? You have a look there and then. If you don't know who it is, you haven't got working 5G in a football ground to be able to sort of quickly have a look and see who's doing what and all that kind of stuff. It's such a shame. RIP the football programme.
I'm very sad about that. And I've met enough inconsistent, cruel, con men, equivalent people over the years to know that when they say, oh, it's this or that, even though the two things are radically different, they're conning you. It's absolute nonsense. They just don't want to do one of those things. So, no. Boo!
The demise of the Matchday football programme is something that I give 1 star to. It's a real shame. It doesn't have to be like this.
I think that's a very fair point.
Chris, lift the mood. What else has been on your mind?
I had a wonderful bike ride at the weekend, Rich. As I said, I was up...
Did you cycle into the back of any vans?
No, not this weekend. 2 days after that incident, I was back out on the road, still with a slightly cut eye, but I was feeling good and actually extra cautious. So I rode out from Cheshire into the Staffordshire moorlands, into the Peak District. It was fantastic. The Peak District doesn't get enough... I think people just think it's like some quaint little hills. Actually, when you're right up on the top there, you sort of climb to about 500 metres. From about 300, 350 metres, the trees start to go. So genuinely, when you're up on the top of the peaks, there's no trees. It's very sort of stark and barren and beautiful in its own way. It was a warm summer's day. I was up, just my cycling shorts and T-shirt. People up walking on the top are in bobble hats and sort of waterproof trousers and that because the weather is significantly different enough. There's a village up there called Flash, which claims to be the highest village in the UK, in England rather, and it's apparently a den of iniquity back in the day. But I thought, so I had time to myself. Rarely I had time to get out, and I'd said to my wife and the family, "Don't worry about getting lunch for me. Peak District is beautiful. I'm going to find myself a lovely cafe, stop off, have a tea cake, have a sandwich or a cob or whatever they call rolls up in that part of the world, a Staffordshire oatcake, something like that." And I sort of work out the Staffordshire moorlands, which is sort of adjacent to the Peak District. I work out somewhere on a Sunday morning, there is going to be a glorious place for me to to stop and have what I want. And I rode for miles and miles and up and down hills. Rich, I did more than 1,500 meters of climbing on that ride. It was hard work. And did I see a shop? Did I see a cafe? Did I see anywhere that vaguely sold food? Did I shit? I saw one sort of farm shop, but not quite a farm shop, because it was just a shed next to a house that sold different types of bird eggs, including a rhea egg. If you've never seen a rhea, R-H-E-A, Google one now. I could have bought a rhea's egg raw for £5, but could I buy a sandwich? Could I buy a cob? Could I buy an oatcake? Could I buy a Star Bar? Could I shit? And I just started to slowly, as I went down those hills, fall apart. And I was just like, I went from having the nicest time in the world to having the worst time in the world. And I was like, you know, you get so in your head on those things. I was like, bloody hate Staffordshire. It's crap here. I hate it. I'm having a miserable time and I'm really tired and I'm really hungry. And eventually I found an overpriced BP garage. And I didn't stop for petrol, but I did stop for some sourworms and a Star Bar with only 10 miles left of the ride, and just went, oof, inhaled them. Disappointing, Rich. Disappointing.
It almost does go back to our chat earlier in this episode about the price of petrol stations and all that kind of stuff. If there's not the demand for them, if this is the thing you've got to bear in mind, all right? And having cycled the Peak District as well, like yourself, it is gorgeous, but it is stark and barren. And there's only going to be so many people that are going to be brave / foolish enough to go and do that. So therefore, the given need for shops is not going to be the same as somewhere that is flatter and more. I bet you can't move. But you can't move for shops in Hackney where everyone cycles, because it's lovely and flat and it's London.
There's Hackney, now there's not enough space for shops to such a degree that there is, near where I live, there is a mobile dog food van that just drives and parks on the end of the roads just to get the customers. There's a mobile bread van that does the same. Like literally there are shops inside shops these days. It is, I mean, I guess that's a department store, but go on.
Two things come to mind. First of all, you and I never find it hard to come up with new business ideas.
Yes.
First of all, mobile cycling refreshment shop. We could run one, park up at the top of a hill in the Peak District and sell all the things that you would have wanted on that ride.
Well, you'd have made a killing off me, mate. Because if you'd had some cheesy oatcakes up there, I'd have given you all my money.
The second thing is, I think you've missed an opportunity. I think you've missed an opportunity with the Rhea's egg. Now, unless I wasn't listening properly, you said to me it was a lovely hot day. Now, we all know that when you get higher and higher, and you said you climbed about 1,000 meters that day, when you get higher and higher, you get closer to the sun. So it's going to be hotter. So if you had bought a £5 Rhea's egg and then cracked it on the bonnet of a parked car,
right,
you would have been able to make an omelette.
That is one of the worst ideas you ever had. And just as a little sidebar here, I give it 5 stars. It was 21 degrees. And as anyone who has ever been up a hill in the UK will know, the higher up the hill you get, it doesn't all of a sudden get hot. It gets freezing. I've already said there were people at the top of that hill in woolly hats and waterproofs. And you're telling me to get back up that hill and in what's probably there 15 degrees, crack a £5 egg open on some other guy's car?
I'd love to make an omelette from a Rhea egg.
I would too. But not when I'm cycling back down a hill through the Staffordshire moorlands cursing life.
Okay. It sounds like the Staffordshire moorlands are lacking shops and they need to do something about that. I support you in that, but I would, as a side note, like to go on a little expedition and go and make an omelette from a Rhea's egg.
Agreed.
Not necessarily on someone else's bonnet.
Now, that part of the world is so beautiful. There is like a low, I can't give it a star system for any sub-review less than 3 stars because it's so amazing there. But I'm afraid because of their lack of cafes, restaurants, shops, petrol garages, the Staffordshire Moorlands and their services get 3 stars.
That's a shame.
It is a shame. There is a 5-star review. They're coming their way someday, I'm sure. Should we have a break?
Let's have a break.
Oh, that was a good one. Rich, on the Patreon today, I am going to talk about something very joyous. I'm going to talk about being sat in what I think is the best part of a restaurant. And that is available only to our Patreons. And I cannot wait to share it with you.
Go find us on Patreon and subscribe. Patreon.com, and you search for Mildly Informed Pod.
We've got time, though, Rich, for you to tell me one more thing about your week. Hit us.
Chris, at the risk of signposting what the review is going to be for what I want to talk about, sometimes in life, progress isn't progress. I want to talk about seat reservation systems on trains these days.
I want you to talk about that for as long as you have the floor.
So this week just gone, I have been up to Edinburgh for 3 days with my wife and my youngest son, and we travelled by train to get up there. We are fortunate enough to be able to jump on at Stevenage and go up to Edinburgh on the East Coast. It take about 4 hours and be absolutely easy. Don't have to fly, don't have to drive, don't have to fly and arrive outside the city and then get back in, and vice versa when you're travelling up in the first place. There's so much going for train travel, aside from the environmental benefits of it. And the really clever thing these days with your modern trains is the seat reservation system, because you've got your little green or red lights above the seats saying if the seat is free, if the seat is reserved. They also have yellow lights saying this seat is free at the moment, but someone's going to be getting on at Retford and they've got it reserved then. So it's all very, very clever when it works. On the way up and on the way back down, 2 different trains, and ironically, 2 different train companies. On both those services, the seat reservation system was not working.
Was this because the train was running late?
No, it wasn't. The train was on time. Oh. It arrived on time and departed on time on both journeys and both legs of the journey. So nothing to do with that. Just the system was down. And when that system is down, it is suddenly an absolute nightmare, because at every single stop, you've got people coming on with their smartphones, ready with their seat and their coach number and all that kind of stuff. And they get there and someone sat in it and they go, "Oh, I'm really sorry, you're sat in my seat. It's reserved." The person then sat there goes, "Oh yeah, the seat reservation system's broken. No one sat where they're meant to be sat." And then you've got this standoff multiplied by 500 at every single stop of people going, "What?" It's just an absolute nightmare. Now, human behavior to me is frustrating, because even if the system is down, sit in the seat you're assigned in the first place, and then we don't have the problem. However, that's not how we are, because we're selfish arseholes. But here's where the problem wouldn't have occurred in the first place. Wind back to the 80s, to the 90s, where the seat reservation system was this: a little ticket in the back of your seat. And that would be administered by the guard at the changeover at the end of everything. And that never failed. That never failed at all. But yet we've decided to be nice and clever and have like little red and yellow and green lights. And when that's down, it's a shit show. So seat reservation systems on modern trains, 1-star review, rewind back to the 80s. That worked.
Yeah, it's really annoying, especially when you got kids with you. And I've been there in that position. I've been like, what am I supposed to do? And they just sort of shrug and just sort of look away from you, go back to their book. It's I understand your frustration.
On the way up, They weren't even making announcements. It was almost as if the guard on like this 9-coach train where the whole system had failed was like, I'm just not going to say a thing. They weren't announcing where they were, where they were about to approach or anything, because the glaring elephant in Coach G was the fact that no one could sit in their reserve seats. So the guard would say absolutely nothing. At least on the way back, they wrote about it. But I mean, they're having to say something every 10 minutes.
Yeah.
We're really, really sorry, but the seat reservation system isn't working. We also, by the way, haven't got a pie cart on here, so we can't give you any food, but we're really sorry.
That's awful. But tell me this one thing. Did you at least on one or both of the trips get to look out the window and see Holy Island?
On both trips. And I did get a seat on both trips. Okay. But honestly, the trip up the east coast of the UK, or indeed down, is one of the most beautiful. And looking out for Holy Island as you approach that part of the northeast is one of the treats. I absolutely love it.
What's your cumulative review then of this experience?
It's a 1-star review It's a 1-star review for the newfangled seat reservation system on trains. But if you are in a seat travelling past Holy Island on the east coast of the UK, that ups to 3 stars.
Okay, that's fair enough. This is the part of the show, Rich, where I'm just going to stop talking.
Yes, this is the part of the show where we have to say goodbye to those who don't decide that they want to pay for extra reviews, extra information, extra infotainment over with our patrons. So thanks for joining us. You're about to miss out. Chris, let's go and skip happily together to our Patreons.